Hello, passengers, co-pilots, shotgun callers, blunderbuss bellowers, and midnight riders. Welcome to another episode of Full Moon Empty Road. As always, I'm Jeremy, and I'll be your driver tonight. Hope everybody had a great week, and hope you're ready for another road trip. With it being cold, as cold as it has been this week, definitely for us in the South, I figured we'd take a trip up to somewhere that's pretty cold, by my standards at least. We're heading up to Detroit, Michigan, to the Masonic Temple, the Detroit Masonic Temple. It is located at 500 Temple Street, and it is the world's largest Masonic temple. The temple broke ground on November 25th, 1920, and opened on February 22nd of 1926. It is a 14-floor Gothic Revival-style building, and it costed about $6.5 million to build. So, pretty high-dollar building. Within those 14 floors, it contains a variety of public spaces, including 3 theaters, 3 ballrooms and banquet halls, and a 160 by 100 foot clear span drill hall. Recreational facilities include a swimming pool, a handball court, a gymnasium, a bowling alley, and a pool hall. I'd be right at home, bowling alley and pool hall. The building includes numerous lodge rooms, offices, and dining spaces, as well as a hotel section. Although the hotel rooms are available to any noble of the Mystic Shrine or Blue Lodge Masons, none are currently in usable condition. Architect George D. Mason designed the whole structure, as well as the Masonic Temple Theater. That was a venue for concerts, Broadway shows, and other special events in the Detroit Theater District. It contains a 55 by 100 foot stage, which, on top of this being the largest Masonic temple in the world, that stage is one of the largest in the country. The Masonic Temple Association was incorporated in Detroit in 1894. It moved into its first temple on Lafayette Boulevard at 1st Street in 1896. Outgrowing these quarters, the association purchased some land on Bag Street, which is now Temple Street, to build a new temple that would also include a public theater. So they started out on Lafayette Boulevard at 1st Street, and then moved on to where the place is currently located on Temple Street. Fundraising for construction of the building raised $2.5 million. That is the equivalent of $33.82 million today. And groundbreaking took place on Thanksgiving Day of 1920. The cornerstone was placed on September 19th of 1922, using the same trowel that George Washington used to set up the cornerstone of the United States Capitol building in Washington, D.C. The building was dedicated on Thanksgiving Day, 1926. It's funny, this has, and I didn't actually plan this, so I guess you could consider this kind of the Thanksgiving episode in a sense, but how they're talking about, where it was open and whatnot, or the cornerstone and whatnot dedicated on Thanksgiving Day. So I had a phone call with my brother last night about Thanksgiving, and he says, talking about his wife, she says I pronounce it weird. I'm like, how do you pronounce it? And he says, well, I call it Thanksgiving. I said, oh, well, that's the thing, dude. We're in the South. You're not pronouncing it weird. You're enunciating. I was like, it's Thanksgiving, not Thanksgiving. It's Thanksgiving. That's what you hear around here. Thanksgiving, not Thanksgiving. Just a little side note for you all there. The Masonic Temple was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1980. It is part of the Cass Park Historic District, which was established in 2005. In April 2013, the building was reported to be in foreclosure over $152,000 in back taxes owed to Wayne County. The debt was paid off in May of 2013, and in June of 2013, it was revealed that $142,000 of that bill was footed by singer-songwriter Jack White. Jack White, a Detroit native known for his work with the White Stripes, he wanted to help the temple in its time of need, as they had helped his mother in a time of need. The temple gave her a job as an usher in the theater when she was struggling to find work. In response, the Detroit Masonic Temple Association renamed it Scottish Rite Cathedral. The Detroit Masonic Temple Association renamed it Scottish Rite Cathedral, the Jack White Theater. In April of 2022, after performing, White proposed to his partner Olivia Jean at the temple and later married her there. As stated before, architect George D. Mason designed the theater, which contains a 55-foot by 100-foot stage, also stated earlier. The Detroit Masonic Temple was designed in the Neo-Gothic architectural style and is faced with Indiana limestone. Although few Masonic buildings are in the Gothic style, the architect believed that Gothic best exemplified Masonic traditions. Much of the stone, plaster, and metalwork in the interior of the building was designed and executed by architectural sculptor Corrado Parducci. The three figures over the main entrance were by Leo Friedlander, while the rest of the considerable architectural sculpture on the exterior was by Bill Gerke. So that's pretty much going to cover the history of the place. And like I say, when I looked this up, I do feel like it kind of fell in pretty well with, Thanksgiving coming up and it having, began building on Thanksgiving. But, I kept reading a lot of things online about the hauntings and stuff that took place here. And as I had already written most of this episode and started to dive in on the hauntings, there really wasn't much here. So I am probably, after I finish this episode, I'm probably going to upload a short story to go along with, this, because I don't feel like this is going to end up being too long of an episode. With something that has as much history as it did, I'm surprised there weren't near as many hauntings with the place. I mean, I guess technically there are several hauntings, but it's all of the same kind of thing, multiple people witnessing the same thing. As far as hauntings, one of the apparitions seen is that of architect George D. Mason. During the time of building the temple, George went bankrupt. Upon going bankrupt, his wife left him. And upon losing his wife, well, not necessarily losing her, but her, running off from him, he jumped from the roof to his death. And these days, security has reportedly seen his ghost climbing the stairs to the roof. Crazy, right? You basically foot the bill for the building, you go bankrupt, your wife leaves you, and you take a swan dive off the roof. As it turns out, that's not even a true story. While it is a well-known story, and it's a very commonly told story, the truth of the matter is, Mason died in his bed at the age of 92. Now, that's not taken away from the possibility of seeing him at the Masonic Temple. I think it was what was the name of that place in Alabama? I did an episode on the I can't remember the name of the place now. The Drish House, John Drish. I believe they had stated that, he had actually, no, he died in the house, so it makes sense to see him back there. Or I guess it was the architect that built the place. Or maybe that was John Drish. John Drish was an architect. Him returning to walk the place, it could have just been him admiring his work. So maybe people seeing George Mason walking around the Masonic temple, maybe they're just seeing him admiring his work in the afterlife. You never know. It may be the fact that nobody's actually seeing anybody. It's just, since that is a well-known story, even though it is an untrue story, run with that. Oh, I saw George D. Mason's ghost headed up to the roof. But yeah, so that wasn't actually a true story. He died in his bed of old age. The temple has various cold spots, and doors are reportedly to close just on their own all of a sudden. One of the roof doors is said to swing open just moments after it's locked by a watchman. Many people have also reported the feeling of being watched while in the building. And a place that size, look the place up. Hit up Google, search Detroit Masonic Temple. It's a beautiful structure, but it definitely looks imposing. It definitely looks creepy. I don't know if it has to do with it being the Gothic Revival style, or if it's just the fact that this thing's been standing for almost 100 years at this point, but the place definitely does look creepy. Aside from opening and closing doors, people have often also reported that they have seen shadow figures walk in the halls of the temple. That's another thing that wouldn't surprise me. Seeing shadow figures in an old, historical place like this, I could definitely see that. But that's kind of mainly what people have dealt with in terms of hauntings. There is seeing George Mason's spirit, shadow figures, cold spots, and opening and closing doors. So nothing too major. I will say it. I kind of go back to, I could see George being seen at the temple, especially if he poured as much into it. He's going to return to something that was, because that would have been, I don't know the right word other than an emotional experience to pour that much money into it and then go bankrupt from, building it. But I could absolutely see him returning to essentially the place that ruined him, but also kind of made him famous. But there wasn't, like I say, there wasn't too much in terms of hauntings for the Masonic Temple. I really thought there'd be more, but I think it's just numerous accounts of the same thing. But if you want to, just hit up Google. You can read about it on all sorts of different places. I got most of my information from Wikipedia this time. Just for the history side of it, As for the hauntings, that was more, I think it was a place called like Haunted Ghost Tours. I forgot to take down the name of the websites that I looked at, but you can find the information on it. It's actually, like I say, it's a beautiful place, and has a lot of, there was a lot of history I did leave out. This was a 14-story structure, so there's a lot more than just the ballrooms and the theaters and the lodging that's within the place. But when I read the breakdown of everything within the building, honestly, I should have put more into it because I didn't realize it was going to be this short of an episode. But, look it up. I would definitely recommend it. It's a really, really cool little place to read about. And I say little place, it's a huge place. Really cool, huge place to read about. But yeah, I've actually already started on next week's episode. And I think you're going to enjoy it. I've been wanting to do this particular one that I'm writing for quite a while now, and I finally just got to the point where I was like, okay, let's go ahead and do it now. But thank you so much for checking out today's episode. And follow me on social media. You can find me at TikTok at Full Moon Empty Road. You can find me on Facebook at FMER Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at FMER Podcast. I actually noticed something yesterday. There's a guy that's on like I don't think he's following me on Twitter, but I know he's on like all the social medias. He's I can't remember his name. I think his name's Kevin, but he runs a page called like Dalmatian Kingdom, and he actually started following me from one of his pages that. From one of his pages, he's got like 2 or 3, if I remember correctly. I don't remember is like where he breeds Dalmatians and stuff. So Anna definitely follows him a lot closer than I do. She's always wanted a Dalmatian. So, but I noticed him follow me. I thought that was pretty cool. No new listeners across the globe yet. I'm thinking we're getting close to time to start going worldwide. I've done several episodes within the United States. I think it's time to start going worldwide. So after I do next week's episode, be on the lookout of us going worldwide soon. And I'm going to start building an intro for stuff across, something we'd have to fly to visit or something, So be on the lookout for that. And like I say, TikTok, Full Moon Empty Road. Facebook, FMER Podcast, Instagram, FMER Podcast, and on Twitter at Full Moon Empty RD. You can also drop me a line at fullmoonemptyroad@gmail.com. And please reach out. I'd love to hear from y'all. Tell your friends about it. Tell them they can reach out and suggest ideas. Tell your friends and family. Just let them know they can reach out. Give me ideas on places they'd want me to cover. It's going to open up with me going more worldwide at this point. I'm going to start, hopefully I start getting people reaching out like, hey, since you're kind of moving away from just United States stuff, I've read about this one. Can you check it out? Now I will go ahead and say going the more worldwide path. Let me apologize because I'm probably going to butcher a lot of names, and I apologize for that. But, just tell your friends and family, have them follow me. Tell them they're welcome to suggest anything. I run all the social medias. I'm the only one that really checks the Gmail account. But thanks again for listening. And before we go visit Tiffany at the Vinyl and Sublime Company. She can do all things from decals, shirts, tumblers, mugs, and much, much more. She's created the first Full Moon Empty Road t-shirt. You can find her on Etsy at the Vinyl and Sublime Co. She even does custom orders. To request a custom order, you can email, text, or use the request a custom order at her Etsy shop. Drop her a line at the Vinyl and Sublime Co. at gmail.com or shoot a text to 706-913-7837 to get started on your custom order today. Go now and tell her I sent you. Now, let's go home.